Have you ever had trouble finishing a music track? Let's talk about it. What's up, guys? This is Stephen Malin, music composer for The Screen, helping you build a music business that supports your family. Today, we're talking about how to finish a music track. As composers, we've all been there. We have this great idea and we want to capture it on sheet music or in our DAW. And as soon as we get an idea into the software, it ends up only being half baked. Sometimes it feels like we have this writer's block moment where we just don't know what else to do. How can we turn this into this? Let's talk about 3 ways to finish your music tracks. Number 1, form structure. Musical form, in music theory terms, it refers to dividing up your music into sections. We typically use letters to define these forms. So for example, binary form would be A, B. So in a track that, let's say, is 120 beats per minute, it's a pretty standard speed. If we were to divide that by 4 beats per bar in a 4/4 time signature, then that would give us 30 bars of music. So in this course of 30 bars of music, you would likely chop this in half and have 2 sections, an A section and a B section. This is a binary form. So in this example, you'd have 15 bars per section, but let's be honest, I don't like odd numbers, so I'd probably round that up to 16 bars each, maybe just slow down the tempo or speed it up a little bit, whatever, to make it more even that way. Because typically in music we have 4-bar phrases or 8-bar phrases. So anytime that you can structure your music around these even numbers, it's going to be a whole lot easier to get your ideas out there and finish your track. If you're writing for a video game loop, an A-B binary form is very typical, especially for 1-minute loop tracks. If you're writing for a film score, you might want to be more along the lines of a ternary form, which is A, B, A, or maybe you want to go the classical route of a rondo, which means A, B, A, C, A, D, A, where you're essentially adding a new section every other repetition. But if you're used to pop music, as most of us are, then you're used to the verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, structure. That's a typical song form. So if you're running out of ideas of how to complete your track, try using one of these tried and true form methods inside your music, and I think you're going to have a much easier time finishing. And a quick note here, if you are inside a DAW, one of the easiest ways to visually see what is left in your music is to create marker tracks. By simply putting these markers above your music, you're going to very quickly see how many bars you have left before finishing a section. So for example, let's say you need to fill in 16 bars for your A section and your little idea that you've written is only 12 bars. Well, now you know that you need 4 bars of music. So one of the quickest ways to solve this is to copy and paste. Find some material from an earlier section and just copy it over. And it's going to be a really fast way to fill in the gaps to at least finish the track. Number 2, write in chunks. One of my favorite DAWs is Ableton Live because it has a vertical sequencing function that allows us to just take little snippets of music. It could be a 4-bar drum loop or an 8-bar melody, and it allows you to arrange them vertically. What's so cool about this is you can hit that play button on a specific loop and it'll keep repeating over and over and over again until you're done with it. So this is a very quick way to take a small idea that you have and quickly convert it into a long horizontal piece of music. Now, perhaps you don't have Ableton Live and you don't have the budget for it. That's fine. You can still do this manually in any DAW or audio editor. It's going to take a lot more time to do it, but you can create one little idea, you export this from your DAW or audio editor, and then you take each of these little tiny clips and you throw them into your session, and that way you can arrange the audio files themselves and not even have to worry about the composition. And this is a cool way to bypass a composition mindset and move into more of a production or editing mindset, which a lot of the times is all you need to get out of that rut and start finishing your music. Number 3, change writing styles. There are 3 different ways to write music. It really is that simple. The 3 ways are melodic, which is when you start with a melody and you then add the harmony and other elements. The second is harmonic, which is when you start with the chords and the harmonies, and then you add the melody later. And number 3 is holistic, which means you're writing with both the melody and harmony at the same time. This is typically done on a piano or any other instrument that allows you to use 2 hands to play both at the same time. Perhaps you're stuck in your track because you have been gravitating to the same writing style just by nature. I know my tendency is to write in a harmonic style by writing chords first and then adding melodies later. But sometimes if I'm stuck and I don't know what to do, by simply switching to a different writing style, by perhaps switching to a melodic writing style, I can then get those wheels turning in my head and I'm inspired again to finish the track. Let's take a real example and apply each of these 3 strategies to finish a track. So what I've done is I've gone onto my computer files and I found the oldest piece of music I could find that was just half-baked, is not a finished idea. Let's take that idea and run through each of these 3 ways to finish a track. That way we can actually turn this into something usable. Let's do it. All right, so I found a perfect example. This MIDI file that I found is over 10 years old. It may even be, 15 years old. Just sitting there on my hard drive, just an unfinished, half-baked idea. And it's actually pretty cool. And I'm excited to take this, and I want to go through the 3 types of ways to finish a track. So type 1, let's make this longer with adjusting the form structure. The first solution that comes to mind is to double the length of this track because currently it's an 8-bar phrase. Here's what we have so far, and I just threw some VSL strings, horns, and brass on top of here. So here's what we have so far. So it's a cool little track. So the first thing I would do here is let's create some markers. So if I do a new track, a new marker track here in Cubase, I can drag it to the top. I can type, that's going to be section A. And an easy way for that to stand out is to change the color of it to something like gold. And then I can actually copy and paste it down here to measure 9. If I have my grid on, I can more easily move things around, and I can call that one B. So now I have an A section and a B section, the binary form that we talked about. So if this is 8 bars, then now I know if I'm trying to make a loop out of this, say for a video game, then I need 8 more bars. So 9 plus 8 here is going to be all the way there. If I'm going to count to double check, that's 2, 4, 6, 8. So 16, bar 16 is where I should stop. And I usually like to add another marker here that just says it's a loop. So this is actually a 32-second loop. If we look down there at our time code, it's 32 seconds. It'll loop back to the beginning. And then now I know exactly how much music to write. So I could very easily go over here and just start playing in some different notes. Something like that. We can go in there and quantize it as needed. Those are all eighth notes. Dun, 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 dun. Just like that. Now we have that little section. Of course, I can go in there and just kind of finish it out. So let's play something in. And then it should loop. Just like that. So let's just take that for today's purposes. And what I could do from there is export my track. And now I have an A and a B section. And let's say if I wanted to extend this all the way up to a 1 minute track, then I might just double this to where I might chop up the A section just like that. And maybe we copy that over and we would label here, this would be the return of the A section or the A prime section. And then we could even go so far as to make a new marker track here for the C section. And then I could extend my looper bar all the way to a minute, which would be another 8 bars, right about there. And so right there, by using a ternary form, the ABA, or even the beginning of a rondo, the ABACA, that kind of thing, you see how much I've extended it, and it allows me to be able to just write more music faster, and it's a very clean, easy way of going about it. For number 2, writing in chunks. The easiest way I can think of doing this is to actually take the original MIDI data and export them as individual WAV files, and then we're going to import them into Ableton Live. And again, remember, if you don't have Ableton Live, you can put these WAV files back into your DAW, and you can audio edit them to create a piece of music. But let's try it with Ableton. So you'll notice here that this is a 2-bar phrase, so I'm going to cut just that part up and export it all by itself. So we just did 2 bars for the string line. Let's do the same thing for the horns line, but we're only going to do the 4 bars here. And then likewise with the brass line here at the bottom, that would also make a good, looks like an 8-bar phrase. All right, so now that we are inside Ableton Live, brand new session, all I've done is create an audio track here. All I have to do is take the strings, drag them in. These are just WAV files you created, the horns, and the brass. Just drag them in just like that. And if I were to start playing any one of these, it's going to start looping. Pretty cool. And it's actually mapped and stretched that information into the BPM that we're currently at. So at any point I can go up here to the top and I can choose the new BPM, let's say 100. And as long as that warp is on, it's going to loop with this button here. It's going to loop that amount of time. So let's make that 120. There's the brass. Perfectly. See how it's all lined up. So what I could do is I could actually make a new piece of music using these little chunks. So probably the fastest way of doing that is to hit the stop button to put the cursor back at measure 1. And if I hit the tab button, it takes me over to the horizontal editor. And then what I can do is I can hit the record button, and it's going to start recording live whatever I start playing. So let's actually turn horns and brass on at the same time, which we can do by duplicating the track. And then if I hit the record button, it's going to start recording. That can turn on the strings. And of course, you can play with that however you wish, but you'll notice as soon as I tab over, I now have a unique repetition of all these different things, just based on how I triggered the events themselves. And then if you want to solidify it, you go over to this little orange button, boom, and everything is now recorded into the session. Now, of course, if you want to write some good music, you're probably going to want to do something with maybe some percussion tracks or some harmonic tracks, some chord changes, all that kind of stuff. But the whole idea here is you're throwing in the WAV files so that we can trigger them whenever we want to. And perhaps if we have more time, I might even create an A, a B, a C, a D, different phrases for each of the instruments that are maybe 2 or 4 bars long. And that way I could very easily just trigger between them, and I can take only, 2-bar information, but by triggering it at different times, it could easily turn it into a 1-minute track or a 2-minute track. Writing in chunks is a very inspiring way to extend your music without creating new content. And for the last style of finishing your tracks, let's try changing writing styles. So obviously this was, over 10 years ago. I have no idea which of the writing styles I used to create this, but my best guess is I started writing with that little string line. So instead of continuing with a rhythm-based idea, which is what I did a minute ago with the B section, instead let's try with a melody. Let's do a melodic form of writing. That way the harmonic is going to have to wrap itself around it. So let's go over here. Let's open up the strings, and instead of doing a short line for a B section, let's try doing something more melodic. It's gonna make a much different piece of music. Something like that. It's gonna really change how we write. And then, of course, if we go here to the brass, we can add that as well. And then we can go from there and kind of fill it all out and mix it and go from there. But you see how by changing a writing style, it completely inspires, and it still allows me to stay within the same context of the piece of music, because I didn't completely go to a different direction, but it just allows us to move the track forward and finish. So there you have it. 3 ways to finish writing your music track. Ultimately, it doesn't matter how you finish your music. It just matters that you do. Perfect is not really the end result we're all hoping for. Finished is better than perfect. Try out all 3 of these strategies, and I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Which of these strategies is your favorite? Or perhaps which of these has recently helped you finish a track that you otherwise would have neglected? Thanks for watching, guys. If this video was helpful for you, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this every Wednesday. If you're ready to start growing your music business and you want to tackle your top 25 music business questions, check out my #1 Amazon best-selling book, Family First Composer. Link in the description below. I want to give a special thanks to my Patreon patrons right here on the screen. Thank you guys so much for your financial support and helping me make this YouTube channel a reality every single week. If you'd like direct feedback on your music and you want to answer your top business questions one-on-one with me, come join our Patreon community today. You can join us at stephenmillen.com/Patreon, link in the description below. I'll see you guys next week. Until then, check out my music composition tips playlist right over this way, and I'll see you then.